toward the end of the year. If anyone has any ideas for programs, our next program next month, Deborah Lane is putting together a program on details. And so people will be sending in a detail and we'll look at different people's details, and you'll have an opportunity to talk about it and discuss what is it about it that is difficult or interesting or useful. And she said that she might like to do that again later on in the year. So, but I just want to mention for everyone that, as you know, these programs are put on by people in the forum. And so we have some openings. Normally when you do a program, the way you look at it is, what am I interested in? What do I need to know about? And you go from there. And it's, there's 180 people on the list. So there will always be people who are curious about the same kinds of things in this form of practice as you are. I guess that's the only other thing. I'll mute.
We didn't discuss who's going first. So
you're going first since you have a nice red background.
Oh.
You're talking the most.
All right.
Unless you don't want to.
No, it's fine. Should we get started, Donald? Okay. All right. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen? Can I get a thumbs up? Great. Okay. All right. Well, I will get started. As some of you know, I'm Rebecca Friedberg. I am the founder and principal. Hold on, I'm going to set a timer for myself also, actually. Yeah, I'm the founder and principal architect of Synapse Design Studio. I'm based in Oakland, and I work primarily on commercial projects throughout the Bay Area and beyond. Right now, I've got projects as far north as Napa, as far south as Santa Cruz, and then throughout the Bay Area, including San Francisco, Oakland, Berkeley, Alameda, and Castro Valley. I think that's it. I really, really love working with passionate small business owners and nonprofits to help them create compelling spaces, places that help them bring their special sauce to the neighborhood that people love coming back to. Okay. Oops. So these guys have been keeping me sane during COVID. These are my cats, Ziggy and Prince. Just a little quick shout out to them for saving my sanity the last year. A little bit about me. I grew up in West Virginia, which has an abundance of natural beauty, much of which I did not appreciate until going back as an adult. So much so now that I've kind of thought about moving back there, which is funny because I couldn't wait to get out when I was a kid and a teenager. I also spent several years living in other countries. I spent a year living in Cambridge, England when I was younger, took a gap year living in Seville, Spain, spent a year studying in Guanajuato, Mexico, and did Peace Corps in Swaziland in my late 20s. I think that living in other places really informs our aesthetic tastes and opens our minds to all the various ways that people work and play and take up space and move around in the world. So I've loved being creative and making art since I was really young, but architecture as a profession actually never occurred to me until I was well into my adulthood. I actually completed my BA in psychology and spent 8 years working in the nonprofit, education, and public health sectors before finally deciding to go to architecture school for my master's. I got my MArch at UCLA and then worked for firms in San Francisco, Berkeley, and Oakland before starting my own firm, Synapse Design Studio, in 2016. So Synapse Design Studio is named for the body's synapses, the interstitial spaces between neurons where electrochemical magic happens, communication and transformation through molecular interaction. Similarly, our work as architects is all about transformation, collaboration, and takes place in environments swarming with variables, both those within and outside our control. So I'm going to talk about some of my favorite projects the last 5 years. The first one I'm going to talk about is City Slicker Farms. I actually did this project when I was still with Lowney Architecture, and this was a collaboration between Lowney Architecture and CMG Landscape Architecture. While at Lowney, I got to take the reins of it about halfway through when the PM left for paternity leave. And I'm talking about it today because for me, it was eye-opening at a time when I wasn't sure if I really even wanted to stay in the profession of architecture. I'd been feeling kind of unfulfilled and disconnected from the end users, and I really yearned to do work that had more of a social impact. Working on this project showed me that there is a path within architecture to do work that's community focused and aligned with my values and my passions. And this project had several community meetings that encouraged the local community to be involved in the design process. It hoped to ensure that their needs would be met and that they would have a strong sense of buy-in and ownership of the project when it was complete. So here you can see it was 1.4 acres of previously industrial land that was kind of going unused and muddy and swampy, and it was transformed into a thriving community space in West Oakland. The program included a working urban farm, community gardens, playground, outdoor classroom, demonstration kitchen, fruit orchard, chicken coop, beehive, art installations, open green space, and an anchor building with office, restrooms, and storage, which was really the scope of what we were doing. The covered pavilion served as a flex space for events, farmers markets, and informal gatherings. Okay. Here you can see the site plan, and you can see the urban farm here. I think if you can see the hand, the orchard, the fruit orchard over here, a community garden here at the front. This was the open kind of unprogrammed space and a playground. And then this right here in the center is the actual building. And here you see the axon or the bird's eye view that shows you those same things, including the outdoor classroom, the chicken coop, the beehive. So it was a big space that we got to include a lot of program. Here's a visualization that was done by Lowney, not me. But you can see this was kind of the proposed view from the entry. And then this is the finished project with the big pavilion. You can see the outdoor classroom kind of out here in the background, and then the actual enclosed building space underneath. This is just a little view of the farmers market day. And then again, the outdoor classroom here. Here's looking at the building from the back and some art that was installed by, what's it called? The Metal Workplace. Oh my God, I'm blanking on the name. Anyway, and then here we have our community garden planter boxes and the demonstration kitchen, which has a roll-up. I believe it has a roll-up that comes down. It's supposed to have a roll-up that comes down to secure it. Okay, I think that's it with that. So then my very first project out on my own when I started my firm in 2016 was Cat Town in downtown Oakland. And Cat Town is a cat adoption center which has a cafe attached. It was the first of its kind in the US. Half of the space was already built out. So this here on the right is the part of the space that was already built out. It was the area for the free roaming cats and for visitors to come and play with the cats. And the other half was just kind of this messy back area, which I'll show you in a second. It was not open to the public. It had previously been a tattoo parlor, and you can see a little inkwell sign here from when it was a tattoo parlor. So it had these kind of partial height partitions that created 6 little open rooms that were being used not very effectively to quarantine cats that were either ill or unsocialized and couldn't be in this big open space. So here you can see what the area looked like before. And so this was a really interesting and fun project. It had some fun problems to solve. Our objectives were to build out this southern half of the space to accommodate individual condos for cats that could not be roaming free in the main space, whether it was because they were ill and had to be quarantined or they were not socialized well enough. We needed to transform the tattoo parlor alcove configuration into self-contained, ventilated, flexible units that would accommodate 10 to 12 condos plus a kitten room. And they really aesthetically wanted it to reflect the character of that main room, which, you know, kind of tapped into the essence of Oakland with kind of graffiti art and these little buildings that were iconic Oakland buildings that served as little cat hideaway places. So they wanted bold colors and Oakland imagery, not a sterile clinical kind of environment. So the flexibility requirements were a few. They wanted different sizes of rooms, and they wanted the ability to join 2 or more units to provide more contiguous space for groups of cats that came in to the space bonded together, or families. They wanted to give shy cats more quiet and privacy, while still allowing the more social cats to have more stimulation and interaction with the visitors. And there needed to be controlled ventilation, especially important with some of the illnesses. And they wanted a staff work area and better storage. So we looked at a bunch of different plans and we landed on this one. And the way we were addressing the requirement for the spatial flexibility was to have different sizes of rooms. We had a cat behavior specialist come and do a presentation to us. And she explained that some cats really want little small spaces and some need more room to move around. So this is part of what drove these various sizes and also the flexibility of joining them. So our solution was to have various sizes of rooms in plan and also sliding barn doors so that two or more of the spaces could adjoin to create a larger space for the cats that needed to have a little more room to run around. We created clusters, these 4 in the front, these 4 right behind it, and then these 4, and then a little work area for the staff, which was one of the requirements. And then this front little room was the kitten room. The idea is, you know, who can resist kittens? Put them up there in the storefront, let them draw in the visitors. So we did some really quick just visualizations out of SketchUp to try out some of the ideas. And this was just a very basic 3D visualization where we're explaining to the executive director how the spaces would vary both in their footprint and also in their height. And so the idea was to kind of evoke little clusters of buildings instead of having this sterile clinical environment, something that would kind of evoke a more organic neighborhood feel. And they liked this, so this is what we move forward with. Here you can see some construction photos, a little bit of framing, a little bit of just getting the drywall up. Now that I've hung drywall myself, I realize our drywallers probably hated us. And then here's some of our finished photos. You can really see how the variation of the volumes in both the in plan and also in height gives this variety of spaces. Some of them have multiple windows. Here on the right, you can see the little staff work area. Here you can see the sliding barn door that lets 2 rooms adjoin. Some of the rooms don't have any windows other than the door for the cats that need more privacy and quiet. And then some of them, like this room right in the middle, is really for the cats that crave a lot of social interaction and attention because it's right kind of on the circulation path and gets a lot of attention. All right, that was a very fun project to work on and very rewarding. Whenever I've gone to visit, the executive director always likes to, you know, she tells me that it works really well and that the visitors really love the layout. Okay, the next one, Vintage Berkeley and Vine Street. This is in Berkeley. There were a couple of objectives, which were to enlarge the tasting area that was there, to rework circulation to allow direct connection between the retail and the rear patio, and to create visual interest at the rear of the store to draw people in and back. This image on the left is the before image, which this piece of furniture, that was kind of wine shelving is what separated what they were using as the office space from the rest of the retail space. And then this little table here had a couple of posts around it in a circle, and that was all they had for their tasting space. Oh, also this is a historic building in Berkeley. It's the water pump station on Vine Street. So up here on the right, you can see a little image of it if you haven't, if you might be familiar with it. Here are the plans. The old floor plan is on top, and you can see there was just this little 80 square foot tasting area that really wasn't working very well for them. And then to get to the back patio, you had to pass through the office, which would not work if they ever wanted to allow the public to go into the back patio for, which is kind of their long-term plan. So here below it, you can see the reworked floor plan where we basically converted about a quarter of the floor area to tasting and retail along the edges. And also this, you'll see is right in the back is a wine display wall. We enclosed the office to give it more privacy and opened up this corridor between the retail tasting area to the back patio to give that a direct connection. We also had a lot of fun working on this detail, this section detail through this wine wall here. You'll see in some upcoming pictures, this wine display wall has the wine, prominently displayed, and then below it, we built out some cubbies to kind of stock the wines that are being shown up here. And then we used these cubbies to support the top of a desk that would be the office desk on the other side of the wall. We're trying to be really efficient with our space and have no wasted area. We went through a couple of visualizations, looking at different ways we could have the office separated from the retail space while still having some light filtering through and some transparency. We looked at different materials, different wall treatments, different wine table treatments, and we landed on the lower right, which is pretty simple, a gray and white scheme with a custom-made wooden and steel table that would serve as the tasting table. Couple of construction photos. This is the back of that wine display wall and the boxed out cubbies that's going to support the desk that's going to be back here. There's one of the guys working on the slat wall. One of the fun things about this is that the slats are installed at an angle. So if you move, when you're moving through the space from the left to right, you kind of get this movement feeling, differentiation of transparency as you move, depending like what angle you're looking at those slats from. So that's kind of fun. Here you can see the build out of the cubbies. And then this is the desk on the flip side of it. And then as a nod to our industrial historical building, we used steel angles as the shelving for the wine. And then there's the mostly finished photograph, which looks a lot like the renderings, I think. So it's pretty, they're pretty happy with that. And that's it. Go check them out. Oh, well, they're not open, but they are delivering wine if you are interested in getting some wine. The next one was a project, also one of my early clients from 2017, Woodhouse Blending and Brewing in Santa Cruz. This is an adaptive reuse project. We are converting an old sawmill to a brew house and tap room. So this picture on the left is kind of what it looked like when I first went there to check it out. It's just this empty open building, rectangle. And this is the finished, but we'll come back to that. Woodhouse, the clients are 4 friends who've known each other for years. One's a brewmaster, one is a graphic designer, and they'd always dreamed of opening a brewery together. These are some of my favorite clients, people who have this dream of what they want to bring to the neighborhood. We also had to remove this giant cyclonic sawdust filter thing that you'll see later on. And this happened in 2 phases. Phase 1 was to build a new addition for the brew house. And then phase 2 was to transform the existing main area into the tap room open to the public. The building is on a parcel with a bunch of other buildings, so that made our approval process a little trickier. Parking and accessibility definitely were big parts of this project. The floor plan on the right is the phase 2, but you can see what we did during phase 1, which is this whole not quite rectangular piece was the addition. And these are the kettles, the beer brewing kettles and the granary. We added a second restroom and a full kitchen to the project. We added a storage, it's really gonna probably be their office. And then right here is the bar and the tasting area, some indoor seating, and then an outdoor patio seating. The accessible entrance is through a ramp that already exists on the side, and then brings you into the space, and then you have to kind of go through a circulation path to the main bar space. So here's some construction photos. This first one on the upper left, here's that crazy cyclonic filter thing that had to be removed. And then this is the wall that eventually would come out. Here they're pouring the concrete. Here we've got that wall opened up. And then the new connection to the new roof, insulation in the brew house, and then the finished brew house without the equipment installed. And the
Hello?
The brew dog. Yes.
Hi,
Everything.
Who's this?
this is Heather Klein calling from the city of Oakland. You called and left me a message, and I'm returning your call.
I think okay. Well, I think I figured
Someone
out.
mute Deborah, please.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, okay. And then here's some of the finished photos. In the lower left, you can see the brew house with all the equipment in there. And then the right photo shows the tap room finished, kind of a fun ceiling treatment to create a more solid ceiling over the bar area, bring it down for a little bit more intimacy and give, yeah, just to change it up a little. I think that's it. Oh yeah, and then the exterior. So here you can see this little jut out here is the new brew house granary area, and then the interior patio, or the exterior patio, which I believe was open for a while before everything got shut down again. So if you're down in Santa Cruz, go support them. They're really fun. All right. The next one is Malaya Tea Room, which is in Alameda. And the owner is a woman who grew up in Malaysia. She grew up in Malaysia, which has an English-style tea culture as a remnant of the English colonialism. They do afternoon tea, but with kind of a tropical twist, with different kinds of flavors and aesthetics. So the owner told me she had long dreamed of opening a Malaysian-style tea room, something that didn't exist in the area. Again, a business owner bringing their special sauce to the neighborhood. These are my favorite. The space was an empty shell, which had previously been some kind of retail. We designed and installed the tiniest kitchen we could while still meeting all the clearance requirements. And most of the interior finishes were things that had been collected by the owner. The furnishings were things that had been collected by the owner. It was a pretty straightforward project with, I guess, the hardest thing was just kind of fitting the kitchen in and getting that approved. And then we had kind of the best architectural thing is probably this beam that we discovered that was behind the ceiling. So demoed the ceiling and got to expose this really cool beam. And you can see the outside when they had outside seating, indoor seating, and another picture of the ceiling and some of the quirky tropical design influences. All right, so I think this is the last project I'm going to talk about, the Alameda Cannabis Retail. After legalization of cannabis, Alameda opened up an RFP process for cannabis projects on the island. it was very limited and a very competitive process for storefront retail. There would only be 4 total storefront retail shops allowed, 2 north of Grand and 2 south of Grand. So my clients, who are the owners, bought this building intending to create a boutique cannabis retail and wellness center. The biggest design hurdle was that this is a residential building, and you can see there's this kind of weird closed-in sunroom at the front, and that is at grade. And then there are steps that go up to the main part of the house. So the thing is, this is actually zoned commercial, even though it looks inside, it looks like a house. So on the left, you can see that sunroom, kind of weird sunroom that was enclosed. And then on the right, you can see the interior and the steps that go down. It's about a 30-inch difference in height. So the trickiest thing that we were looking at was accessibility requirements, and a 30-inch difference would require a 30-foot ramp, and there was no way we were going to be able to do that. And they didn't want to take up the footprint of a lift. So what we came to was that we would lower this, we would demolish this floor and lower it to grade, pour a new slab, and just have a continuous level at grade. So they did make the first cut of the RFP process, and they were down to the final 8. And at that point, the owners were engaging with investors who wanted to, who needed to see renders of the space for their pitch deck. So we spent a good amount of time developing the visualizations, which I'm showing you now. This is where you would check in on the left, and we kept the spaces separated so that they could have kind of a secure check-in area. And then once you walk through, there's this door here on the left. Once you walk through that, you would see the merchandising wall. Their goal aesthetically was to have something that was bright and light and beachy and kind of reflected the soul of Alameda, the way they saw it. If you look to the right, you would see some more merchandise and a sniff table and a little window seat. And then to the left was the west wall, the checkout area. Ultimately, they were not selected by Alameda as one of the final awarded owners, but they were waitlisted. So in theory, they could eventually maybe build it, but for now it's not been built. So all we have are these. We have these pretty pictures. Finally, I wanted to just talk about a couple of the other things I've been doing that are building related and kind of feed my soul. So I've volunteered with All Hands and Hearts, which is a crisis response organization around the world. I went to Puerto Rico. This was after I went in 2019. They were still doing work following the hurricanes Irma and Maria that hit in 2017. Maria hit right here in Yabucoa, and that's where we were based. There was massive destruction throughout, especially the southeast side of the island. But most of the work that we were doing was roof repair work and mold remediation. So here you can see us on the roof. This is me in the back laying on my stomach. We are installing concrete cant strips underneath this ledge because there was water pooling there and leaking in there. A lot of what we did was power washing these roofs, scraping off old sealant, trying to fill cracks, concrete cracks, and then painting new sealant over the roof. And then these are some of the folks who are doing the mold remediation. And then the other thing I'm doing locally, which has been so much fun and just so rewarding, especially these last few months, is volunteering, doing construction at the Youth Spirit Artworks Tiny House Village here in Oakland. This is a project that is at this site providing, I believe, 25 tiny houses plus 2 yurts, 2 community yurts for homeless youth between 18 and 24. And this is actually supposed to open pretty soon. They're shooting for later this month. I'm not sure if it will actually open by the end of this month, but we'll see. I think the owner I was speaking to the director the other day, and I believe the city of Oakland leased this land to Youth Spirit Artworks for $1. Since the first time I showed up there, I kind of just joined the McCarthy construction group. Each of these tiny houses is sponsored by either a church or a synagogue or a company, a corporate company, or built by a community group or nonprofit. And so there happened to be one that was just in framing when I showed up, and I asked them if I could join their team. So I've been building with them. And this was one of the first days I was there on the upper right. And then here on the lower left, this one right here is the same one. Last week I was there and we were just installing trim and hanging drywall. And then on other days, if McCarthy hasn't been there, I have just been assigned to different things. Here I'm installing asphalt shingle. So I really feel really fulfilled doing these kind of community facing projects, and whether it's retail or food and bev, cannabis, community or nonprofit, these I just feel kind of driven to grow my firm in a direction that will be more community engaged. And so if anyone else shares that drive, I'd love to hear any of your wisdom or continue that conversation. That's it. I'm done. Oh,
Can I ask a question?
yeah.
I mean, it looks like we've got good time if you want to take 4 or 5 minutes to take questions or something. But Rebecca, what I'm curious about is Synapsis Design just you, or is it a group of people working together?
It's usually just me. When things have gotten really busy, I have hired someone here and there, but usually it's just me.
Really beautiful work.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to ask a question?
I have a quick question. What's a sniff bar?
Oh, so pre-COVID, if you went to a dispensary, there would be jars where they would have fresh buds from marijuana in them, and they would have holes in the top and you could smell it. So. I mean, part of the fun thing about being an architect that works on like a wide range of kinds of projects is you learn about whatever industry your project is, right? You like learn a lot about cats, or you learn a lot about weed, or like it's kind of one of my favorite things.
It looks like Courtney asked in the chat if you use SketchUp for your visualizations.
I use, for visualizations, I use Revit, and then I usually export that 3D model into SketchUp, and then I kind of paint it up and add materials, and then I use a plugin renderer out of that. So yes, the Crucible, whoever asked that, yes, that's what I was blanking on. And sorry, I'm just seeing the comments. And oh, yeah. You were large, cool.
Rebecca, I remember that you were working on the Alameda Cannabis project while we were at Big Oakland. I was kind of looking over your shoulder when you were working on that.
Yeah, it's very sad that for now it's not moving forward, but we'll see. Maybe someday.
Rebecca, Claudia here. Well, I noted that you originally studied psychology, and when you were talking about the cat compartments, you were talking a lot about how the cats feel and what their temperament and their personalities were. I just wondered, how much does your background in psychology help you in architecture?
I think it's more relevant for the humans that I work with. I would say that, I really think that I'm sure we all agree that our physical spaces dramatically impact our psychological and emotional spaces, and vice versa. And we can see that historically in kind of architecture that has been created historically in different periods. But yeah, it also is kind of helpful with clients. Like sometimes, maybe I have more tolerance for listening to some of the rants and raves of clients. but also listening for what they're not saying. And I think that's really important. I think that kind of listening between the lines when people are talking and trying to really draw out of them, what is it, whether it's their pain points or their, their desires for their space. I don't think people are always that great at expressing it verbally. So trying to draw it out of them, maybe that has helped.
Rebecca, I have a brief question about the wine store.
Yep.
Those wine bottles look like they'd fall right off in an earthquake. I was wondering if you put some thought into putting a wire guard or something to keep them in place.
We did. We thought about, we looked at all sorts of different things, like even bike water bottle holders, like using those as that. Ultimately, the owner decided, if there was an earthquake, broken wine bottles were going to be the least of his worries. So,
but that's his inventory.
Right. But you're thinking about the safety of people who would be standing near them.
That too, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure he's insured, and he ultimately really liked the look of the angle, the steel. But it's a very valid question. We looked at maybe putting a little wire around the necks of them, or
My son worked at Gather Restaurant, and they have a number of pickle jars all around the walls, and they put a metal guard in front of that shelf that holds all the pickle jars.
Like just a little lip, or
like a rod, a small diameter, like a quarter-inch diameter rod, but it's full length.
Yeah, no, that's smart.
Josh, I'm guessing that you're not the one that does the grocery shopping at your house.
Why?
Because this is very typical. You go to a grocery store after an earthquake and everything is on the floor.
Oh yeah, I understand that, but that's different.
It is,
I think. Thank you, Donald. Thank you, Rebecca.
Rebecca, I had a question. My name's Chris. The project variety is really interesting. I was just curious how you market or how you get these projects.
Great question. I don't really have much of a marketing strategy, but I'm working on it. And my projects have all come just word of mouth. Like the Cat Town one came through a builder developer I'd worked with in the past. The wine shop in Berkeley is actually a friend of mine, is the owner. The Woodhouse Brewery, Malaya Tea Room, and the Cannabis project all came from referrals through kind of either friends of friends, or either directly through friends or friends of friends, kind of referrals.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just such a variety of projects. I mean, they sort of one led into the other, of cats to wine and beer to cannabis, I mean,
so, I would say, I would say I'm really focused on, right now I'm working on a restaurant and a wine bar. So I really like food and beverage projects. What I really love is working on public facing work that the community ultimately gets to engage in, and working with business owners who are passionate about what they're doing, because it's just really a fun, creates a fun chemistry and energy around the project. So that's really where I would like to be marketing, if I had any marketing, which I don't.
Where do you think post-COVID there's going to be, will be the opportunities? What are the companies that will come up more on top, that will have the resources to be able to pivot and kind of jump? There's going to be that sort of, we're in this stage of triage right now, right, in retail, and there'll be winners, and there'll be sort of grabbing space and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the clients that I have who were either in permitting or in construction when COVID hit, one was a restaurant and another one is a wine bar and restaurant, and they didn't throw in the towel. I think people are kind of determined to move forward, and banking on the fact that things will be back to normal in 6 months or 9 months. You know, I know there are also a lot of places that close down. So, you know, I'm not sure, Courtney, but, you know, I think what we've seen is that businesses that already had outdoor space were able to survive a little bit better than the ones that had to improvise little sidewalk space. Thinking of like Jack London Square, those restaurants that had big patios were able to really kind of continue. But
Becca, I think I need to step in here a second. We want to save time here and for Barry to give his presentation. And again, Rebecca, thank you. That was really amazing.
Thank you so much.
Barry, take it away.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, you're on.
I'm on. Can you see me?
Unfortunately.
I'm so sorry. So I guess I should share my screen here with something. So let me get my presentation up here. Give me just one moment. That's not it. Here it is. Let me just see here. Second window. Desktop.
Barry, if you go to the, you got it?
We got it. We're going to get it in a second. View options. We want to see a full screen on this. So why I can't see, hang on. One moment. Okay. Okay. Full screen mode. Bingo. And share. Screen sharing has failed. Screen sharing has failed to start. Please try again. Let's try again. So who knows why screen sharing has failed to start? Anybody?
Maybe you're not the host.
I am not the host. Jane, can you do something for me?
No, you are a co-host. It should be able to work for you, Barry.
Okay. I'm clicking on the little share button, but
try it again now. I just changed a setting that said one participant can share at a time.
okay. Let me just see if I close out this little thing here. No. Oh, can you see it? Can anybody see anything?
Not yet.
Not yet. All right. Hold on.
Your
Share screen. Share.
Yes.
Okay. Hang on. One more moment. Full screen mode. And do you see that?
It was better before full screen.
Oh, really?
Click back to your first slide.
Well, this is the first slide.
Go back to the previous screen.
Okay, hang on.
That was perfect.
That's perfect, okay. Anyway, Barry Wagner here. I'm an architect contractor. And today we're going to look at two projects. One is a project that's been going on for a number of years. It's next door to my main house on 9th Street in Berkeley. It's a, you can see the site plan where that little red dot is. That's called the main building. And in
Can't
the back
see it.
is
Jane, why don't you share a screen and put Barry's first slide up?
Okay.
Oh, you guys can't see it, huh?
No.
Sharing is paused. Bring your shared window to the front. So when sharing is paused, what does that mean?
Are you able to see this? You want to see this?
He has to stop. You gotta take control of the shared screen. There you go.
Okay, this is good.
Okay.
Got it?
We're looking at the first floor
Now
plan.
just Jane on view.
Well, okay. Don't look at the first floor plan. We'd rather look at the site plan. Which is the one before.
You're controlling that, Barry.
Yeah.
We're looking at your PDF window. There you go.
Hang on, let me go to full screen mode. Okay. Can you see the site plan?
No.
No, for some reason, when you go into full screen, it's not working.
Okay, I'm going to get mad at Mike Wilson for that. Okay, so Jane, can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes.
But you don't see it in full screen mode, probably.
We don't care.
We don't care. Fine, okay. So anyway, so this is a project. The front building, which is called the main building, is a duplex. Oh, and incidentally, if you have any questions along the way, better to ask them while I'm doing it rather than at the end, as long as they're good questions. So you can see the main building here. It's a 2-story. I raised it up a couple of feet, put in a ground floor unit, and the project is still under construction. The first floor plan shows basically a 1-bedroom apartment. You enter, to the left is a kitchen, to the right is a living and dining. And then as you go further down the hallway, there's a little bathroom to the left and a bedroom to the right. And that is the first floor plan, about 730 some odd square feet. Then there's a second floor plan, which you enter through a set of exterior stairs. Enter, there's kind of a living dining combination area, and then kitchen, small bedroom, laundry, bathroom, and master bedroom. Hey, where's our loft plan? Anyway, there's also a loft up there. You'll see some photos of it, and a roof plan with some skylights. This is a wall section. The building, since it is a duplex, very important that the people upstairs, or rather the people downstairs, vice versa in both ways, don't hear each other. And so put in a very belt and suspenders sound isolation system, where you have a floating floor on top of what's called an acoustical mat made by Encasonic, and then a bunch of very heavy insulation, rock salt, and then 2 layers of sheetrock on the ceiling that are hung by a sort of sound isolation system made by ResiMount. And all along the way, we tested to see pounding and walking and talking and all that from above, and you can't hear a thing below from the people above and vice versa. The upper floor is the more interesting one. The ground floor has an 8-foot some odd foot ceiling, and not the nice cathedral kind of exposed beam kind of things that you have on the upper floor. So on the upper floor, you see the entry area rather, a spiral stair that goes up to a loft area. And then towards the front of the building, you have a kitchen to the left on this side, and a sort of the living dining on this side. The building is insulated with foam everywhere. Body heat will probably keep it warm for the most part, even though it has a pretty sophisticated heating system. Here's the spiral stair, and to the left, obviously, and then the loft area that you can see to the right. And all of this, I built all this. And here's the little loft, the loft niche. The windows are all custom windows made by Frameworks, all vertical grain Douglas fir, and the sills are all reclaimed lumber. In the living room, this is a big awning window. You can see the plaster walls. It's a natural plaster, integral colored plaster walls with cove ceilings, which were part of what the building was like originally. Although they're all new coves, the cove was a detail that we kept going. This is in the kitchen area. We have butcher block countertop, tile, wood shelves, and then over on the right, some floating shelves. Again, all the doors and windows made by Frameworks, and then on the right you see some of the doors, typically the closet doors, have a perforated aluminum panels set in them. From the outside, it's hard to get a good view from the front and the back because there's scaffolding and trees and all sorts of stuff around there, but on the left side is the front view. It's stucco on the lower floor, and then pressure-treated pine on the upper floor that came from Pennsylvania. The stucco is actually a textured stucco. If you remember on Telegraph Avenue, I don't know if you've seen a building on Telegraph and I believe it's Haste, called the Enclave. It's a student housing project. It looks like it has a bunch of rocky boulders that are forming the base of that building. Anyway, I talked with the guys and we figured out how to do the same thing. And they came over to do some of that.
Barry, I have a question.
Pardon me?
May I ask a question?
Sure.
What led you to buy pressure-treated pine from Pennsylvania instead of a locally sourced wood?
So normally I'd use Western red cedar. That was the typical choice. It was cheaper than redwood, and if you got a good grain, it would lay pretty well. Any of the good wood around here is at $4, $5, $6, $7 a lineal foot for anything good. And then afterwards you say, well, what are you going to do with it? You're going to paint it? I don't want to paint it. You want to stain it? Well, you can stain it, but then you'll have to, refinish it every few years depending upon the exposure. And so this wood is pressure treated. You'll see some close-ups of it. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's all vertical grain, no knots, and strong and weatherproof, and does not require any kind of sealant, preservative, paint, or anything like that.
What was the treatment chemical?
I think it was, what was it? Wasn't CCA, it could have been CCA, but I think there was another one. Chromium copper arsenate, I think. I might be wrong about that.
Not arsenate, but the copper part.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. The copper was right. I think it was aqua something or other, but I don't remember. But it doesn't have any of the. You'll see a closer version.
But Barry, if it's the copper, if it's the treatment that has copper in it, you need to use stainless steel connectors. Do you use all stainless steel nails?
I used galvanized.
Yeah, that won't. If it's the copper-based treatment, that won't work. Keep an eye on it.
We'll keep an eye on it. We'll keep an eye on it. And I might be wrong about that CCA.
It might be borate. It might be borate treated.
No, it's not borate. I remember it not borate, but And I checked with the manufacturers and blah, blah, blah. I did all that research and it seemed to be okay, but I don't trust anybody as far as, well, in fact, I think you're right. We'll just keep an eye on it. So anyway, you have this stucco that actually, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but if you look at the very interesting building on Telegraph and Haste at the corner, the northeast corner, and you look at the rock work, it looks like the building comes out of rock. And the craftsman artist who does that, we talked a lot, and he came over to my house, and we made all sorts of interesting rollers with pebbles in them to put in a particular pattern into the stucco, and then a special treatment afterwards. You'll see some stuff afterwards. So on the right is the rear. Again, so much stuff you can't really get a sense of what's going on. The original house had these sort of tapered columns with a mild case of enstasis. And so I built tapered columns on the back, which was an addition of the upper floor that kind of followed that same pattern. They were very hard to build. This is a close-up of the stucco work. One thing that's important in design, I very much like to see a base to a building. So the base stands out. It is chamfered or tapered, as are the lower walls of the house. You probably couldn't see it from the photos, but the lower walls of the house are actually have like a 3-degree cant to it to give it that sort of pyramidal look to it. And so you have the stucco, and you have the base of the building, and then the columns also have a sort of matching stucco base. And another important design feature is the division between the upper floor and the lower floor, and how to do it in a good, hefty sort of way. And so I made these water table moldings that divide the top from the bottom. In the front of the building, you have the stucco at the lower portion, then the water table, and then this pressure-treated pine. And to the right, you have on the back end of the building where that sort of overhang is, almost like a capital to the column. And then these are soffits of the roof soffits, and just a close-up of the pattern that it's kind of nice to look at. That is the building. There's a solar array on the one side of the roof, an inverter. And the first ground floor is a radiant heat using an on-demand boiler that also does the domestic hot water. The upstairs is heated by a boiler that runs through radiators, these little Runtal radiators, and also does the domestic hot water. And there's a recirculation system that I put in, so there's always hot water at the tap without having to waste a lot of water. And that is the little project in Berkeley. And then another thing I do is I make furniture. Well, I don't, every so often I'll make a piece of furniture. And so here's one that is a table, a dining table with some benches. And so first designed it by hand, and then stuck it on the computer, and then made it. To the left, you can see the tabletop is made of cedar, big 4x4 chunks of cedar. And to the right, you can see the benches that you'll see later are made just from a glue lamp that actually was purchased at Urban Ore. Here we are, showing that I'm actually doing some work. varnishing the table to the left and routing some special, what they call Delran, is particular kind of plastic feet for the bottom of the table. This is what the table looks like on the patio. The legs are made from 1/4-inch steel tubing that that actually had to get bent. And nobody around here could bend it, so we took it up to, well, in Stockton, there's a place that has a machine that's as big as your house that can bend the steel. And so it's basically 2 arches. And there's the table with the benches. And the benches have little funny little feet that kind of turn back in. This is kind of what the little bench looks like. And that was cut with a plasma cutter and then bent and so forth. And that is some furniture that I've done. And that's it, folks. The last thing is, since we don't have a lot of stuff going on outside, we decided to tame bluebirds, or blue jays. So this is my buddy that comes by, and we hang out on the back deck.
Fabulous.
And that's it.
Thank you.
I have a question, Barry.
Yeah.
Do you do the other trades, the wiring and the plumbing and all that stuff?
The wiring I have done by a guy by the name of Fernando, who's my neighbor, who's a contractor. The plumbing, I did all myself, except the boiler work and the connections to the radiant stuff. I had Gerald from California Plumbing and Heating. He did that. All the radiator installations and the piping for the radiators was done by California Plumbing and Heating. It's a very complicated. Did I show? You know what? Yeah, I showed all that. You saw the boiler room and all that stuff. My God, there are more pipes in there than you can shake a stick at, and it's very complicated. So that part of the boiler, the heating system, I did not do. All the domestic stuff, hot and cold water, all that I did. Yeah.
Barry, did you?
The only stuff I didn't do was the interior plaster. I had a guy do, and what else? Everything else I think I probably did. I'm not going to do the hardwood floors and other stuff that anybody else can do.
Barry, did you guys run an energy model on, because
well, we did a Title 24 thing on it. The building is as tight as a drum. It has foam insulation on the walls and the ceiling. And so the guy, what's his name? The Title 24 guy. Oh gosh, he lives right down the street too, and his name is just coming out of my head. Yeah, he did the calculations on it, and it turns out that I mean, it just no heat leaves it. In fact, my concern was that the building is so tight that the indoor air quality would be a problem. And so what I did, without the building department knowing, and I didn't show it to you guys because it was just one more thing that wouldn't be all that interesting to see, but I set up a series of passive vents from the front of the building through the rooms to the rear of the building, so that even if somebody's living there and they've closed up everything, there's still going to be air moving through the building. Any other questions?
But did you have second thoughts on the radiant floor? I mean, given you had a very good envelope there.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
We're getting some kind of back noise here. I don't know what's going on, but did the radiant floor system in a way become overkill? Did you find that it would overheat too quickly, or how does it?
Well, okay, so this project is under construction.
Okay.
So we have not actually turned on, and the the radiant system for the ground floor slab. We did turn on the system for the radiators, and that's for the upstairs. The wall, those white panels that are against the wall. But for the downstairs, we don't know. But yeah, radiant is very funny. It could overheat, and that is a concern.
Did you use isonine foam? What kind of foam did you use?
Just the closed cell polyurethane.
Closed cell, okay.
Yeah, all closed cell. And
great.
Oh, and I did not do that work. That's a messy job.
Are you doing more design build work?
I'm doing, no, I don't, the only building I'm doing is for stuff, for next door. And I also have a company called Pocket Door Specialist, and I do some of that, and that's outside work. But that's only, a day or two out of the week.
Barry, I noticed somebody ask about the spiral stair in the loft area.
That was a tough, as I'm scrolling through this, can you see the slides moving?
Yeah.
Okay, so this spiral stair, what a pain, what an extreme pain to build. What I wanted to do was not have, I could have gotten some kit thing and just stuck it up there. But there's something nice about when you go up a stair to maybe your private little loft area that, not everybody in the living dining can see you. So I said, okay, let's close it off in a way. And so the middle post of that stair is actually an old an old light pole, which is actually tapered from like 5 inches to 7 inches to the bottom. But the whole thing was stick built, not a kit like you would normally do.
Oh.
Is that,
Darren, why didn't you use radiant heating upstairs as well?
I think just too complicated with too many broken up areas. And also I wanted a isolated floor system.
Right.
And so just that floor system itself, what a pain. You got joists that are the old 2x8 joists.
Right.
On top of that, you have 7/8 of an inch tongue and groove sheathing. On top of that, you have 1/2 inch plywood, which actually acts as the, as the shear. On top of that, you have an acoustical mat. On top of that, you have 2 layers of 1/2 inch plywood crisscrossed, with gaps all the way around it. To add the radiant heating on the floor seemed like it was a complication I didn't want to deal with.
And can you also remind me where you got that? I mean, your siding from? Were you?
The siding came from a company called Stauffer.
Stopper?
Stauffer.
TAU.
And I had it milled as well. I mean, they milled it there. The pain in the behind, though, is that if you want to mill any of that around here, nobody will do that, because at least at the regular places that you might take the wood to have it shaped or wood or milled to anything.
And Stauffer treated it after milling?
No, this is pressure treated all the way through initially, then it's dried, and then it's milled.
Well,
let me see if I have a good.
Barry.
Say it again.
Keep an eye on it.
Okay, you can kind of see. So when you say keep an eye on it, what's your concern?
Corrosion of the galvanized connectors.
Oh yeah. That's yeah, certainly.
And I would be concerned about whether the treatment actually achieve full saturation of the material. That milling might have exposed on.
That is not a question. It does. Yeah, that's not a question. In fact, the whole idea of this came from a playground near the Berkeley Marina and the aquatic park. It's a job I had helped with as a volunteer, a number of years ago to build.
The adventure playground?
The adventure playground. Well, not the adventure playground, but it's a shorebird playground,
Okay.
which is right next to the adventure playground.
Right.
And also a park called Dreamland, which is at the bottom of Bancroft, basically. And that wood has been there for like 20 years, and it doesn't gray. It browns a little bit, but it ages absolutely beautifully. And they didn't, we used just regular coated screws on that. And it's lasting unbelievably forever.
Great.
I'm very surprised. And so I tracked down the manufacturer, whoever actually did the playground, then talked to them. I said, where do you get your materials? They told me. And after about 6 different jumps, I got to the guy who actually supplies it, and then connected with a mill to mill it. And then they stuck it on a really long truck and trucked it out here. Yeah.
I'm trying to find Stauffer, and I did a Google search. I can't find it. Could you say a little more?
Yeah, hold on. Let me see. I have. I had some little post-its with their. I had some post-its with their thing on it.
Well, I didn't want to hold up the meeting. It just, you can text
No,
it or email.
Josh, I'll tell you right now. Okay, Ted Carlson at Stauffer, HSTAUFFER, 717-475-7820. Pressure treated Southern Yellow Pine, A grade.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, really
Barry,
good. Yeah.
Barry, with your custom windows, the wood windows, do you just take the worst value that, whatever the energy calculations are? I mean, how does that work exactly?
Wood windows are perfectly fine. They're double glazed. Okay, so you have the insulated glass. What was a pain, though, is that since they're not a manufactured window with an approved rating that the manufacturer can stick on the window and the building inspector can say, okay, that's okay. These guys, my Title 24 guy was kind enough, because the building department wouldn't accept it originally. They said, you got to have these little stickers that show all these coefficients of this, that, and the other thing. And so the Title 24 guy made 1 million stickers, and we put them on there, and it passed fine. But in terms of performance, the wood is fine. It's 3/4 inch Douglas fir with double pane glass, weather stripping all the way around. It's pretty good.
Who was your manufacturer of those windows again? Who made them?
Oh, there's a company in Oakland called Frameworks. But you got to watch out for him. He's got to watch out. That's all.
Hey, Barry.
He does beautiful.
Thank you. I have to go. Thank you.
What were the wood counters in the kitchen?
So that was one of the toughest things that I had to make. So they're maple, and you probably can't see it from the photograph, but well, let me go back 1 or 2. So you can see on the left side, that's the kitchen, and the counters are in an L shape, and they fit perfectly, and they're joined together with these dog bones, and the cool detail, I think, I've done this before, is you know how in butcher block, when it goes up against the backsplash, you get this nasty kind of line of mold and crud that just can't be cleaned? So I milled a piece. Again, you can maybe see it a little bit, but there's a cove here that goes up about a ½ inch to meet the bottom edge of the tile. And so stuff gets on there. There's no crack. There's no sort of wall, floor kind of junction for stuff to collect. It was sort of a self-cleaning thing.
Nice.
And then a buddy of mine, cabinet maker right down the street, he let me use his Festool Track Saw. And if anybody's ever used one of those, they'll realize what it really means to cut a straight line, because where these butcher blocks join, where one joins here and one joint butts into it, it has to be an absolutely, I mean, no joint. You can't see a joint.
No.
Anyway, so it was a tough one to do.
Who will
So
be
is
living
that
there?
butcher block?
I'm sorry, say it again?
Is it butcher block?
It's a 1 3/4 inch maple butcher block from the Booze Company.
Okay.
And you can get butcher block cheap, 1.5 inches, made up of little itty bitty pieces. But this stuff has long, continuous pieces. And I got it at White Brothers. They were closing down their warehouse and they had a bunch of it. And so they gave me a pretty good deal.
Who's going to be living there?
I don't know.
So is it a spec development then? You're going to sell it. I get it.
I'm not going to sell it. Probably not going to sell it. It'll either get rented, or if I can get some portions of the family that live, 2,000 miles away to come over and live here, that would be my preference.
Fabulous. Wow.
I'm not looking forward, frankly, to managing a rental property. I've been working in San Francisco at many of these. I go to all these, do a lot of work in San Francisco on these pocket door repairs. And a lot of them are rentals, and I talk to the owners or the landlords, and my God, I'm scared to do a rental. I mean, I'll do it, but it's, yeah, no fun necessarily. I already rent out 2 places here. We have 2 little accessory buildings, and I have the best people in the world there. But no contracts, all just handshake, simple, cash, and it's done. But I won't be able to do that with this project. This one is a pretty high-end project. It's a very nice place. When people come in, they say, oh my God, I want to live here. And so we'll see what happens.
Wow.
No more questions. I can't hear anybody.
See you, Rebecca.
Donald, I can't hear you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right.
Yes, I was saying thank you. Thank you. Your
Nice
work is
to
very
meet all of
beautiful.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, and I think we're ending on time.
Yeah.
Thanks for all the sharing. I really appreciate it.
Okay, very good. Good to see all of you. So what do we do now? I just say goodbye and turn the computer off?